This manhwa is about a young boy on his path for revenge. The story begins with both Dan-young and his sister right by their mother's side as they left their home village. On their way, they encountered two martial artists that was blocking their path, to which Dan-young's father, who was the leader, decided to negotiate with them so they could continue their journey. After he had given them an offer to which they refused, there was no other way to resolve the problem but for them to fight. The two martial artists were a lot stronger than any of the guards that the group had accompanying them, and before the fight even began properly, people started losing their arms and legs like they were paper being blown away. As the fight continued, more and more people died, which caused the leader of the party to step in. But even him was no match for them after losing one of his arms. Dan-young's mother, in an attempt to save the children, told Dan-young to take his sister and run. After that, she grabbed her bow and decided to fight with her husband, but her courage quickly disappeared after her husband lost his head right in front of her. With all the other guards and servants dead, she was the only one remaining, and being caught by one of the martial artists, she was restrained and raped to death, all while Dan-young was watching everything that was happening without being able to help. He then mistakenly leaked a small amount of bloodlust, which was sensed by the martial artist that was on the lookout, which caused an attack to be aimed at him, but was able to stay hidden with his sister. After being alert by their presence, they decided to light the bushes on fire, which caused Dan-young to take his sister and run for their lives. Dan-young had collapsed while carrying his unconscious sister, but luckily, both of them were able to make it out alive. Dan-young, still unconscious, was unaware that his sister had been rescued by someone from their village, woke up and thought that his sister had died in the fire. In an attempt to escape, he fell into a nearby river, and by the time his sister came to rescue him, he was already gone. Back at the valley where the fight had taken place, the two martial artists were reporting to the leader of the soldiers after they had completely killed everyone as was assigned to them by the general. But the general got mad at them for killing the girl, as the main reason why he had ordered them to kill everyone was because he wanted Dan-young's mother for himself, but she wasn't in love with him, so he decided to get rid of her husband and everyone close to her. After being looked down on by the general, one of the martial artists challenged him to a fight, which ended with him losing one of his arms in the end. By a river, an old man could be seen walking by on his way until he came across Dan-young's washed-up body in the river and thought that he was dead. But in the process of taking the shoes from what he thought was a corpse, he realized that the boy was alive and decided to take him in as he was on the brink of death. After selling Dan-young's clothes, he was able to buy medicine for him and nurse him back to health. From that point on, they both stick together and survive with the little amount of food that the old man had until one day, a soldier sent by the general to find Dan-young showed up at the old man's door asking for the boy. After the boy was discovered because of the shop owner the old man bought the medicine from, both the old man and the soldier started to fight. The old man didn't have any problems fighting even though he was inflicted with a deadly poison before. But the fight didn't last too long, after the soldier underestimated him without knowing that he was a martial arts master and ended up dying. After the old man's condition had worsened since he used martial arts, he wanted to save Dan-young and wrapped the child on his back and left the area. More soldiers sent by the general found out what happened and reported back to him. And so the old man carried Dan-young through the snow, headed for a nearby village while constantly fighting off skilled martial artists sent by the general, which gradually weakened him because of his poison. Now in a snow-filled field with nowhere to hide, the old man made his last stand against the martial artists that were after them, in order to protect a boy that he found while fishing. After a long drawn-out fight, the old man had won and managed to protect Dan-young, but not without the cost of his life. After forcefully using his martial arts, the poison inside him had quickly spread, leaving him on the brink of death. As he draws closer to death, Yi, who has never had a disciple in his life, decided to accept Dan-young as his first and last disciple. He gives Dan-young a broken hairpin and tells him to find the butcher in the mountains that stand out the most and show him the hairpin. He then hugs Danyang for the last time as he breathes his last breath, as Danyang's cries could be heard throughout the dark, snowy night sky. After being in the snow for so long without any food or water, Danyang was found in a rabbit's den by 3 kids after they tried to steal the hairpin his master had given him, and was taken in by an old beggar who saved him and gave him food. Danyang then explained everything that had happened to him all the way up until he was found by the beggar. After hearing his story, the beggar decided to teach him how to control his bloodlust, so he can avoid bringing himself unnecessary attention, and also taught him how to live as a beggar to survive. One day, as he was walking in the village with the beggar, Danyang came across one of the martial artists that was responsible for killing his family, and after seeing him again, all of Danyang's resentment and hate that was at the back of his mind came crawling out, and his eyes turned red with uncontrollable bloodlust directed towards the martial artist. The beggar, being well aware of the situation and the relationship between Danyang and the martial artist, decided to discipline Danyang right then and there to get rid of his bloodlust and not gain the attention of the martial artist, which proved to be successful. After the beating, the beggar told Danyang that if he was able to control his bloodlust, he would help him defeat the martial artist. The martial artist, walking around the village with just one remaining hand because of the fight with the general that was after Danyang, had got into a fight with a thief after being pickpocketed, which caused a huge commotion, and the military chief showed up, which, after the crowd had sided with the martial artist, the military chief couldn't do anything but agree with everything that was said. After the fight had taken place, the martial artist got straight into another fight at the restaurant that both Danyang and the beggar had stopped at, and he decided to put on a show by beating everyone up and saving the best for last, which was none other than the beggar who had stepped in and saved Danyang before. Even after he had completely annihilated everyone of his opponents with ease, he was still never able to fight the beggar, as the lady in charge of the restaurant had shown up and offered the martial artist for a drink, to which he accepted. And using that chance, both the beggar and Danyang was able to escape. After that, the beggar took Danyang to meet someone, which was none other than the head of the beggar sect, Jin Sheng, that could give Danyang the answers that he needed the most. Jin Sheng revealed that Danyang's master was the famous Chiun Te Huan, the couplet flower sword, and told him where he should go to find the butcher he was looking for. And with that, Danyang decided to leave the beggar sect and depart. But before he could do so, the soldiers that were after him had found out that he was involved with the beggar and attacked them. The soldiers burned down the house where the beggar and everyone was staying, but fortunately, Danyang and all of the kids that were being protected by the beggar were able to survive. And so, Danyang decided to leave that same night and headed straight to where the head of the beggar sect had told him to go, which all took place while the martial artist that was after Danyang was sleeping with the woman that had offered him a cup of tea at the restaurant before. Out in the field, Guan Yu, which was one of the 2 martial artists who was responsible for the death of Danyang's parents, could be seen being dragged in handcuffs by the military officers after killing a prostitute. Suddenly, the phantom sword who had his right arm cut off and was the other martial arts master who killed Danyang's parents came to rescue Guango. But the phantom sword's help wasn't necessary at all, as Guango was able to easily get out of the handcuffs placed on him by the officers. And after a brief talk about the phantom sword becoming weak after meeting the woman at the restaurant, Guan Yu started to brutally kill the guards until no one was left but him and the phantom sword. And so, just like that, they parted ways again until the day they decided to fight the general who had cut off the phantom sword's right arm. After everything that took place, Danyang was even more determined than before to find the butcher that his master had told him about, to finally start his long-awaited journey of taking the lives of those responsible for the death of his parents. With his strong determination, he was able to reach his destination after days of not eating. And so he arrived at the village where he will find the one that he has been desperately looking for. After arriving, Danyong, who had been malnourished from not eating, just sat in the corner for days, patiently waiting for the butcher to show up. And right when it looked like he was about to die, a butcher had shown up and used the same technique as his master to butcher a boar. And with barely any energy left in his limbs, Danyong managed to catch the attention of the butcher. And he brought Danyong back with him and took care of him until he regained some of his energy and was able to speak. He then explained to them what had happened to his master and asked for their assistance in training him so he can become stronger. But despite being told that his bones and muscles were already developed, so training him wouldn't do much good, he still insisted that they teach him their martial arts skills. And so the butcher and his wife decided to teach him martial arts as he requested, and lead him just like how Cheon Tae-wan had led them before he left them and disappeared. And that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, and if you have any thoughts, you can let me know in the comment section down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.